The Supreme Court handed down two major rulings this morning. One was a major win for the Biden administration and its immigration policies. So CBS News reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez is here to talk with us about the impact of this case. Thanks so much for joining us. So yes, in this case, we're talking about a ruling that allows the president or the administration to get rid of the Remain in Mexico policy, which they had been trying to do.
That's right. This decision by the Supreme Court will allow the Biden administration to finally put an end to the so-called Remain in Mexico policy, which the Trump administration first implemented back in early 2019 to require asylum seekers to wait outside of the U.S. for their court hearings. They are rejecting arguments presented by Republican officials in Texas and Missouri who argued that a 1996 law required the administration to implement this policy indefinitely if it did not have detention capacity to detain all migrants who are crossing the border without legal permission. Remember, the Trump administration used this policy to keep 70,000 migrants in Mexico while their asylum cases were adjudicated. Many of those migrants reported being victimized in areas of Mexico that the State Department warns Americans not to visit because of rampant insecurity and crime. President Biden put a stop to that policy on his first day in office, but Republican officials convinced a federal judge to require the program's reinstatement. Now the administration can start the process of unwinding this policy once again.
And so you've covered the immigration beat for quite some time. What are you hearing as far as reaction is from the sources that you talked to?
Sure. So this is a legal victory for the Biden administration. It has said that this policy is not effective in terms of managing migration flows. Now the Biden administration, again, can start that process of unwinding this program once again. And it's important to reiterate that while the Biden administration will try to end this policy, it has kept another Trump-era border restriction along the U.S.-Mexico border known as Title 42. Title 42 is a public health law that allows border officials to quickly expel migrants and asylum seekers without processing their claims on public health grounds. So the Biden administration has retained that policy. It tried to end it back in May, but another set of Republican-led states filed a lawsuit and have now forced the administration to also keep Title 42 in place. So this case is bigger than just Remain in Mexico. It has broader implications on U.S. border policy, and it could restrict states and organizations from being able to convince lower court judges to stop and change immigration decisions by the executive branch.
So then what is the expectation now for the policy moving forward? You know, a lower court had determined that, as I understand it, that the federal government has two choices. Either you detain people or you send them back. If you don't have the ability to detain everyone, which Congress didn't fund, then they had to be sent back. But there's a third option, which is what was in place before, which was send people to their family and friends and wait till their case came out, right?
Sure, that's the release option. The Biden administration, for example, has been releasing some of the migrants it is not expelling under Title 42 and has been giving them court notices so they can attend those court hearings with their family and friends in their respective destinations in the U.S. Republican officials do not agree with that policy. They do not believe migrants who cross the U.S.-Mexico border unlawfully should be released. They believe those migrants should either be detained, as you mentioned, or should be sent back to Mexico to await their court hearings because they believe that mass releases of migrants encourage unlawful immigration.
So do your sources think that that's what we will see, though, that the policy will now be, okay, release people to their contacts, the people that their friends, their loved ones, their families until their case comes up?
Well, it's important to know that border arrivals are already very high. We saw Border Patrol officials record an all-time monthly high of apprehensions of migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally in May. So we are already seeing unprecedented levels of migrant apprehensions at the U.S.-Mexico border, but they could very well increase in the coming months. However, again, some of these migrants, mostly adults from Mexico and Central America, are still being expelled under Title 42. They're not being allowed to access the U.S. asylum system. It is groups like unaccompanied children and families with minor children who are being processed under regular immigration laws, which allow them to seek asylum, because that is also part of our laws. Our laws require officials to screen people who ask for humanitarian protection.
All right. Camilo, always great to have you, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.